So disruption. So this was the headliner for the event. It's one of those words that gets thrown around an awful lot. Every startup wants to be the next Uber. Established businesses are scrambling to ensure they're not the ones who are disrupted. Interestingly, the term comes from a 1995 Harvard Business Review article that Clayton Christensen put out. And today, as things have progressed, disruption's typically synonymous with innovation and transformation. Today, I'm really delighted we've got the chance to look under the hood of a few businesses, local businesses, and also interact with a founder who has genuinely disrupted the industry that they're in. Now, today, we're going to talk about three broad categories. We're going to talk about disruptors, defenders, and the disrupted. And we believe that successful disruptors and defenders share really the same needs. They need to align the executive team. They need to cascade change and execution through the organization. And they need to empower current and future leaders with both the capabilities and opportunities to grow. So align, change, and empower.
For the last 13 years, the TMT sector is fast moving, and senior execs have to deal with several disruptive forces that are outlined here. It's very challenging to find growth, and across the 15 companies in the TMT sector that I cover, we've seen a slowdown in revenue growth this year. And that's because of the macro uncertainty affecting enterprise businesses and also consumers. Look, businesses are taking longer to make their own decisions, and consumers are grappling with the high interest rates, which affects the mortgage payments. And looks like interest rates may stay higher for longer, so there'll be an issue for the consumers as well. In terms of disruptors, the common thread that I find with the disruptors is that they tend to have fantastic products to solve problems or to make it a lot easier for the user. So, for example, Xero, they have built beautiful accounting software that is cloud-based and easy to integrate with third-party software. And they've managed to replace desktop-based accounting software. And then also in the telecom space, Megaport on the right. What they've done is that they've turned something which is pretty boring, which is traditional telco connectivity, and provide a web-based portal where people can order the connectivity on demand. So instead of having to wait for the technicians to come, they can provision your services within 60 seconds, which is incredible. And that could be, connectivity within Sydney Metro, or it could be intercity, or it could be the global coverage as well. Yeah, the second category, which is the disrupted category. So Foxtel used to have close to 3 million customers on a broadcast platform 15 years ago, and now they probably have just over 1.2 million households that are subscribing to the Foxtel broadcast platform. Yes, they do have streaming services such as Binge and Kayo, but it's a bit too late, and that's because they've been trying to protect the legacy businesses, because the ARPU on those broadcast products are much higher than the streaming services. What I've seen is that they usually are pretty complacent, given that they've got a dominant market share or the number one position in the market. They're also quite slow in making changes, or big changes to their products or the business model. They are constantly paranoid, and they've done continuous improvements in the companies, in the products, in the business model. So constantly changing and trying to discover how they can protect their market share.
If they're an aspiring founder, what advice would you give them so that they would be successful?
Look, I think, a high level one is like never giving up. You've really got to have that, you're going to get knockbacks, you're going to have failures along the journey, but you've got to have that mentality to keep going. But I think also the actual industry that you're going into is important, and the model is really important. When we were selling initially as a sales company, you're selling and you're getting an upfront commission for every sale you do. If you stop doing sales, you stop having an income. The only business models I'm ever interested in now are things of a recurring nature, where you can obviously you're building something the whole time, where customers are going to continue paying you for those services ongoing. So you're selling a product now, but you're making money hopefully many years into the future, as long as you're looking after that customer, staying relevant, servicing them well. So I think that's the key thing. It's hard if you're selling coffee, for example. You can sell one coffee, you'll make a bit of money, but you want to sell a coffee to that person every day. So it's trying to get that recurring nature would be my top tip. I always say that I'm looking for an expert in their individual field that's going to do the job better than me. And if we can get, if I can split my role out into 8 different roles and they're all experts in their individual field, we're going to end up with a stronger, more equipped, more qualified business. So I think that having the right people is up there as absolutely critical. But it's then trying to put systems and processes in place that we can still remain nimble. We have to be, as a disruptor, first to market. If there's changes, NBN pass down changes, which they love to do on short notice, we need to be able to move quickly. We need to be able to deliver it. We need to be ahead of the main competitors.
What is a leader to do? And certainly, we have a perspective on this, but I'm obviously very, very keen to also hear from, our panelists and also from people in the participant group. Let's just start with the disruptor category. And so if you are an aspiring disruptor or in the middle of disrupting, a couple of the things that I've heard today are, this very much an obsession with product and providing value to the customer. And leadership challenge at that stage is translating the founder's passion, translating the founder's vision as the startup moves into scale up through some, professionalization or some maturity in those early days. And that's something that in our work at Lighthouse, we love to participate in, because you get all this energy and typically a fantastic product that's selling rather well. And then, I love to help businesses just mature into the next phase and then into the next phase after that. And a lot of that happens through leadership and through setting expectations and conversations and, all the things that we know, but are very difficult to do when you're, so absolutely focused on growth.
There's the challenge we observe is just in the execution of what people are trying to do most of the time is so difficult for them. And balancing sort of the innovation, I guess, when you're trying to bring new things to the market or, being aware of what you need to innovate with whilst you're trying to execute is a hard balance to strike. So that's a kind of question I'd like to generally pose to Andy.
Yes, I think, the business has matured a lot, especially in the last 12 months. Some of the work we've been doing with Eric actually has been very helpful in sort of flushing some of these topics out. But, we kicked off OKRs, so really trying to have a well-documented, well-groomed backlog, I suppose, constantly knowing exactly which projects are scheduled, in advance. Whereas before, a couple of years back, we were much more reactive. You're like, oh, we've got to fix this, so we've got to do, change that, without that longer term vision. So we had to, I suppose, pivot as a business and get some people with a bit more strategic thinking, as opposed to just, people that worked on the systems in the business, and I think that was a key sort of turning point for us. And we're now starting to see the benefits of that, where we can actually execute significantly faster in a better, in a more polished way, with better outcomes.